Working in teams today is crucial to getting the project done, but it has its challenges, particularly when it comes to sharing data in a controlled and secure fashion, and this without limiting creativity and the contributions from the whole team. Hi, my name is Stanley from Allion Technologies, and today I'd like to introduce to you a product called Teamspace that I believe addresses many of the challenges we face in today's document-centric environment. The typical challenges we face in data-centric projects are how do we actually go about sharing the data in the first place. Then making sure everybody's on the same page is quite a challenge. And managing how we update information, how we manage changes. We generally also then battle with various versions of the truth. We aren't all on the same page, and thereby wasting precious time and money. We also battle with distributing large datasets. Today's IT landscape doesn't necessarily make that easier. Firstly, there are so many different systems out there which you can use to share project data. Email, Dropbox, SharePoint, shared drives, Google Drives, Alfresco, the list goes on and on and on. And then we haven't even touched on how we secure that data. If these are the typical challenges you face in delivering your knowledge-centric projects today, then Teamspace is the data management solution for you. So let me introduce you to Teamspace. Teamspace is proudly South African. Teamspace is owned, managed, hosted and supported in South Africa by Allion Technologies. In a nutshell, Teamspace is a cloud file system manager. To my knowledge, the first and only of its kind in the world. Teamspace enables you to aggregate and access many different cloud providers all under one virtual cloud file system. Key for collaboration and project management, Teamspace allows you to manage a variety of cloud file systems under one roof. Thus, through one login, with one audit trail, one set of permissions, Teamspace allows you to share all your project documentation with both internal groups and external groups, and keeps them encrypted as well, independently of storage provider. Teamspace can be consumed via our software as a service public offering. But more importantly, if you're a corporation or an enterprise, Teamspace can also be installed on-premise, on your infrastructure, and behind your firewall. And whether you're consuming the public offering or your own private offering, you can access your information using any device of your choice. Android, iOS, Windows, all of them accessing the central Teamspace repository. And using our Cloud Sync tool, you can sync a chosen folder from the cloud back down to any folder on any of those devices that I've just mentioned. I think the best way of going forward now is showing you a quick demo of the Teamspace environment. I'll fire up my favorite browser. By default, I'm logged in to the Teamspace environment. This was facilitated by the Teamspace authentication system. Active Directory integration is available to facilitate single sign-on. I'm logged in as my administrative user. By default, I'm taken to the home screen. There are a couple of options on the left and some administrative options in the right-hand side menu tree. We will cover those in more depth in the admin video. Let's jump straight into the file manager. You'll notice that Teamspace takes me back to where I left it. Where I last left it is where it takes me back, so that is quite handy. You'll also notice when I select on my cloud files that I see a number of folders there. ET storage is my corporate storage installed on my infrastructure. That is also an organizational folder which is shared with my organization. So depending on the role that members of my organization fulfill and the permissions associated to that role, they will be able to see and do differing things with the subfolders within that environment. Next down are files that I just once off imported from Google. Below that is my Dropbox files. Now this is a live connection into my Dropbox, my personal Dropbox files. Teamspace does not move those files from their storage silo, but creates a management layer over your storage silos for you to access and share those files. Below that, a Google Drive files, very similar to the Dropbox files, and again another internal private storage folder that I'm using here. You will notice that on the left I have your typical browsing environment, and on the right the file contents menu is shown, where I see a list of my files. I can see what files are there, the name of the files, and of course what kind of content they are, whether they're Word or PDF or so on. Slightly to the right here, I see that these files have been versioned a number of times. These timesheets have been versioned, and I can access either of those versions and promote that version to the most current version if I so choose, or delete that file if I so choose. Teamspace, however, always only shows the latest version on top, so you needn't guess which is the latest one. In line with that file, I have a couple of options which I'll dive into more depth a little later. Open directly in MS Office, post a comment, share a quick URL, and trash the file. And to the right, a few more options, more specifically if that file already has comments associated, whether the file is locked, and so on and so forth. So let me demonstrate how I would work with one of these files. Let me open this timesheet directly in MS Office directly from the Teamspace application. I verify my credentials, and in a snap my Excel sheet is opened directly from Teamspace. I did not have to download it to a specific folder, it opened directly from Teamspace. Let me edit this file. Now that I've made my edits, I simply hit save. Teamspace and Excel are integrated using the WebDAV integration, and thus my file knows exactly where to go. It will update the file back in Teamspace and versioning it without me needing to know where it came from. I simply hit save. But let's say I started a new Word document. And I wanted to save that back into the cloud. I simply go to Cloud Actions and hit save. And immediately I can save this document directly to any of those storage silos. You will notice there's my ET corporate storage. Here is my Dropbox storage. Here is my Google Drive storage. And here is my other private storage silo. Let's cancel that for now and close this document. So we've seen that I can open a document from Teamspace directly into Office, and from Office again, any new documentation I can save directly back into the cloud. Now let's say I wanted to share the work that I was busy with. There are two main ways that I can share this environment or this work. I can right click on the document, generate shared link. What this will give me is a once-off URL through which people can download documentation directly from Teamspace site without actually accessing the environment with a logon credential. I can specify after how many days, hours, or minutes that URL expires, and for security purposes I can also set a password so that only people with that password can download that document. And this is for distribution of any datasets, but particularly large datasets that you don't want to mail around. But it's also key that the people that use this URL will always get to that document. I'm going to cancel out of there for now. The other way is by creating groups. Groups are specifically designed to bring together external and internal team members into these groups. Once I have built my group, I then can share any of the folders, group sharing, with any of those groups, and of course its subfolders, thus now giving that group an extended insight into a project workspace or into a project folder. I can also do that with a one-off document. I can group share a document, and therefore whoever is in that group, when they log into their Teamspace environment, they will be able to access just that folder and its subfolders, or just that document, thereby immediately opening your information to the broader team. Now, the key thing to note here, I've just shown you that on an organizational folder, but what about my Dropbox files? Now these are private files, but in actual fact there is work in there. I can right click that and I can group share a folder from my Dropbox environment via the Teamspace authentication system with my team, thus making collaboration across data silos so much easier. And if I wanted to permanently share that with my organization, I could permanently convert that to a shared folder, keeping in mind that I can just as easily unselect that or unshare that from the organization or from that group. You can enable notifications on document level or folder level, so that whenever files are updated, whenever files of a certain naming convention or file extension are created or updated, you can be notified of those changes, thus staying on top of the changes to that environment. Let's talk a little bit more on the collaborative side. If I take that timesheet and I comment on that file, Teamspace records every change to every file by every person, whether that be in your private storage or in your public storage silos like Dropbox and Google Drive. It will recall who touched that file, when they touched that file, and what they did with that file, and even the IP address, the geolocation where they did that from. But more importantly, we can collaborate around that doc by posting our comments, our bullet points, and our numbers onto that file. Let me demonstrate. Remember, we edited that timesheet, and I can send. That now becomes a permanent part of the comment trail of that document for everybody else to see. If someone else were on that document commenting at the same time, we could effectively engage in an instant message like chat around that document. And so you could almost get team members from different geographic locations to instant message chat around documents instantly. And our whole thread will be available for the rest of the team to see later on. And of course, if it's a comment that I made, I can in fact change that and save those changes to my comments. Let's close that for now. If I was going to work on an extensive document for some time and I did not want somebody overwriting my work, I could lock that file. This would now hinder everyone from making inadvertent changes to that document. I will be the only one that can now unlock that file, including of course the administrator. How about emailing? Well, when I email this file, I don't actually ever move the file out of its storage location, whether it be in my private storage or a public storage silo. I literally actually just attach a link. Let me show you. Okay, expiry, friends, email address, and some text, and you send it. That communication is kept forever in the system as a record, and your friend will receive a secure URL from which to download that file. Let's explore the options on the left. Favorites is where I can group a selection of files and folders that I use on a day-to-day basis. They all gather together and I can access them directly from there. Locked items is essentially a filter of all the files that I have locked so that I can quickly see what is locked and whether I should be unlocking them. Encrypted files, this is a key point to touch on. Teamspace will facilitate the encryption of every single file, if you so choose, independent of the storage silo you're storing it in. So encryption is not just if you're using your own personal storage silo, but it is also applicable across Dropbox, Google Drive, Alfresco, and all the other public storage silos. Teamspace will encrypt that for you independently of whether the public storage silo supports encryption or not. And that goes for versioning as well. You'll remember the timesheet that I versioned. Teamspace will manage the versioning of every file independently of whether the public storage silo supports versioning or not. Public files is a handy way of making a folder or a file public for public consumption, but still keeping that file managed within Teamspace. Groups we've touched on earlier. Contacts is literally what it says it is. It's a central repository of my contacts. My syncs is another wonderful aspect of Teamspace, and I'll delve into that a little bit deeper. If you're running POP and SMTP mail and you're not on an Exchange server, Teamspace will actually back up your entire mailbox for you automatically. Fantastic. In actual fact, if you're running in an enterprise, Teamspace can also store all your users' Skype chats, because it is in actual fact corporate IP. So let me quickly jump to the desktop toolset that we have. Teamspace runs two items in your tray. First one being the main one. Cloud Explorer allows you to browse the online environments as if you were in a browser. I'll touch on Cloud Sync just now. Cloud Drive literally brings up your whole Teamspace environment as a map drive. Here I am in Windows Explorer and I'm browsing a map drive on my computer as if it were on my network, but in actual fact it comes from the Teamspace environment. Mail backup I've described, sync monitor I will describe, and then a couple of other things, but most importantly your control panel, where you control your account, your integration, what's available, your cloud sync, and what are the default behaviors with that, and so on and so forth. Cloud sync is what keeps your desktop or your tablet or your phone, any folders on those devices with any folders in your cloud, in sync. You can set up a scheduled sync, a one-way sync, a two-way sync, a clone sync, and a backup sync. Various ways to ensure that your data on your desktop is always updated into the cloud, and when your colleagues and other project team members make updates to their documents on their desktop, that is updated into the cloud, and if you've subscribed into those folders, those files will update back down to your desktop. Also key to note, if you have a Galaxy Tab or an Apple iPad, you can synchronize your documents, your music, your photos, and any media files that you have on those tablets and phones. You can use Cloud Sync on those devices to sync that back down onto your desktop and back up to those devices, so that your music and your photos and things like that are always in sync. So one of the last aspects that I'd like to show you is how Teamspace handles various files. Firstly, if I just want to download it to my computer, I double click it and it's downloaded to the downloads folder. I've previously showed you how we can open those files directly in MS Office. Here I have a couple of JPEGs. I can view them directly in the browser. And without downloading them to my laptop or to my desktop, I can literally just click through and view the files. As easy as that. Here I also have an FLV file downloaded from YouTube. This works just as well with MP4s and so on. I can play it also directly in the browser. Streaming live from the site. And lastly, if you have some music, you can also stream this live in your browser. It opens in this neat little widget. Well, that's it for now. Please do watch the other videos that I have available, and I trust that this has been helpful. If you have any questions or inquiries, please don't hesitate to drop me an email at stanley@teamspace.co.za. That's stanley@teamspace.co.za. Thank you for watching.